and tears. Enough!
The 10th and final decade of the 20th century, the 1990s were largely a period of peace and prosperity for the nations of the Western world. But intertwined in the world scene were the fall of communism, Desert Storm and the Gulf War, the death of Princess Diana, and the release of Nelson Mandela.
Should I plead guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty.
In the U.S., notable events included the trial of the century, the Northridge earthquake in Los Angeles.
I did not have.
And the impeachment and then acquittal of President Bill Clinton. And in the Western Collegiate Hockey Association, the most historic and successful league launched its 5th decade of competition, where it most often seemed to skate its way to the top.
The league that everybody wanted to play in was without question the WCHA. The Western Collegiate Hockey Association was looked upon as the league. That was the NHL for college hockey.
Minnesota's back-to-back runaway league titles to close out the 1980s were aberrations for the WCHA. The league returned to normal in the 1989-90 season by going down to the final weekend before Coach Jeff Sauer's Wisconsin Badgers finished 19-8-1 in league play to edge Minnesota by 3 points for the McNaughton Cup.
A dedicated group. They had been together for a while, and they were seniors and they were ready to get something done. They hadn't accomplished the things that they had hoped to accomplish going in there. They had a good nucleus and they did a great job, had a great year.
A crafty Denver forward named Dave Shields won the league scoring race with 50 points and 21 goals. But Wisconsin's overall balance was impressive. Forwards John Bice, Chris Tansel, and MVP Gary Shuchuk were among the top 5 scorers. And the league's best goaltender in Dwayne Dirksen.
Dwayne Dirksen established himself not only as a good goalie, but on one of those teams where you didn't have to be a great goalie because they had so much offense and all of those seniors leading the way.
We stuck together. We didn't lose any guys to the NHL, and we stuck together because we had a goal of winning a national championship.
That veteran core of seniors led the team from mid-season blahs to a whirlwind hot streak.
Hill winds up.
The determined Badgers swept Maine in the first round of the NCAA tournament and became the only WCHA entry among the Frozen Four finalists at Detroit, where they took out Boston College 2-1 and brushed aside Colgate 7-3 for the national championship.
We took the whole party down to the college club downtown Madison, and I don't think we stopped for about a month and a half. I think some guys are still going, actually.
Year 2 of the new decade saw the addition of a new full-time association member in St. Cloud State University.
The program wouldn't have started without Herbie and the support of the university, getting the rink and everything. I was just the first Division I coach and was there for 19 years.
Coach Craig Dahl's Huskies wound up tying for 5th place in the regular season standings behind standout defenseman Brett Hedekin. But it was a team from Marquette, Northern Michigan, that kept the WCHA's winning tradition percolating.
They played in that smaller arena up there. It was a very intimidating place to go. It was essentially a high school, what we'd think of as a high school arena that had been expanded to fit college hockey. It was cold up there. It was a long drive. There's always a lot of snow in the UP.
Coach Rick Comley's Wildcats bristled with firepower from league scoring champion and playmaker Scott Beatty, who produced 33 goals and 64 points. The Wildcats won the WCHA playoff championship in the St. Paul Civic Center and then returned to that site for a most amazing NCAA tournament. Northern beat Maine 5-3 in the semifinals, then won an incredible 8-7 triple overtime marathon against Boston University in the NCAA championship game.
The back and forth of the game and all the near misses in a great place. Everybody thinking, well, it's going to be BU's turn, and then they found a way. Plandowski scored the big goal.
It was a fun team to watch. I remember going to the championship game down in St. Paul, and probably the best game I've probably ever seen. I still remember that game to this day.
In 1991-92, Coach Doug Woog's Minnesota Golden Gophers returned to the top of the league ladder, fashioning a 26-6 league ledger and 52 points to outdistance Wisconsin for the McNaughton Cup by a noteworthy dozen points. Forward Larry Olam, a pair of tough defensemen in Doug Zamolik and Travis Richards, and conference goaltending champ Jeff Stolp led the way. But Northern Michigan, with league scoring champion Jim Hiller, won the playoff championship, while Wisconsin lost out to Lake Superior State in the national championship game in Albany, New York. The 1992-93 season was highlighted by the reemergence of Minnesota Duluth atop the league and 4 WCHA schools earning NCAA tournament berths. Coach Mike Sertich's Bulldogs were led by a pair of All-Americans in center Derek Plott, the league scoring champion, and talented defenseman Brett Howard. They put together a 21-9-2 league record to win their 3rd McNaughton Cup in 10 years. Plott was the WCHA Player of the Year, finished the season with 92 points, including 36 goals.
And then once you got over the red line, it was called MSU hockey, make up. I like to let him have that freedom. And Derek, he just blossomed in that kind of thing. There was no boundaries on him, and I trusted him completely because his decision making was usually pretty right.
North Dakota's Greg Johnson set a WCHA record for career assists, but the biggest surprise in the WCHA's distinguished national tournament history may have been when Minnesota Duluth, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Northern Michigan all skated to first day NCAA regional victories, but none would reach the Frozen Four, where Maine beat Lake Superior State for the title 5-4. As the league headed into the 1993-94 season, the balance in power shifted west to Colorado College, where an upstart Tigers team under first-year head coach Don Lucia began an amazing 3-year run at the top.
I think the building blocks were in place. There were some pretty good players sitting there, and maybe it was just time for a fresh change. And to be able to win a league title coming from low expectations, obviously the year before, was pretty special.
The WCHA also welcomed the addition of the University of Alaska Anchorage under head coach Brush Christensen to the league family that season. The Tigers skated to their first WCHA championship and McNaughton Cup since 1957. Individually, Minnesota Duluth forward Chris Marinucci won the league scoring title and was named the WCHA's Player of the Year, and then went on to win the Hobey Baker Memorial Award. League champion Colorado College was inexplicably ignored by the NCAA committee for the tournament, and Lake State won the national title by crushing Boston University 9-1 in the title game. Don Lucia guided his Colorado College Tigers to a 22-9-1 WCHA record in 1994-95 and to their second straight WCHA championship. The only one to reach the finals in Providence, however, was Minnesota. Junior forward Brian Bonin won the league scoring title with 46 points and 27 goals in just 32 games. In 1995-96, Colorado College became the first team in the long and storied history of the WCHA to win a 3rd straight regular season championship. All-Star Tigers defenseman Eric Rude earned the first of his back-to-back WCHA Defensive Player of the Year awards. This time, the Tigers did reach the NCAA Men's Frozen Four, but after winning a double overtime 4-3 semifinal thriller against a Vermont team, the Tigers lost 3-2 in overtime to Brendan Morrison and the Michigan Wolverines. The Gophers' Brian Bonin was the repeat league scoring champion with 64 points and was named the league's Player of the Year for the 2nd straight time. And he also was honored with the Hobey Baker Memorial Award.
I think, when you really focus on a team sport for the team success, that's when individual successes come, and I was very fortunate to have that happen. And so that Hobey is really a sign of so many other great players that I played with and what they were able to do for me.
The Tigers' impressive 3-year run of WCHA championships was snapped in the 1996-97 season when the league produced another of its best races. 5 teams finished within 5 points of each other, with North Dakota and Minnesota eventually sharing the McNaughton Cup. Minnesota defenseman Mike Crowley and Colorado College forward Brian Swanson shared the league scoring title with 42 points apiece. After capturing the Broadmoor Trophy as the league playoff champion, North Dakota then defeated Cornell 6-2 at the NCAA West Regional, but saved its best for last at the Frozen Four held at the Bradley Center in Milwaukee. The Sioux upended league rival Colorado College 6-2 in one semifinal, then beat BU 6-4 to bring the NCAA crown back to the WCHA after an uncharacteristic 5-year absence.
We had a little bit of everything. We had 4 good lines. Our 4th line went +7 through the national tournament and playoffs. And all the other lines were just skilled and fast. And that was one of our slogans, was speed kills, because we could get up and down the ice and just fly.
As juniors, that talented North Dakota group won the WCHA regular season championship again in 1997-98. But the Badgers came back to win the Broadmoor Trophy at the league playoff championship at the Bradley Center in Milwaukee. Also of note, Minnesota State University, later known as Minnesota State University Mankato, was invited to participate in the league's postseason tournaments prior to being granted full-time membership in 1999-2000. In the national tournament in 1998, North Dakota lost 4-3 to the eventual champion Michigan in the West Regional, leaving no WCHA entrant at the Frozen Four in Boston, where Michigan beat Boston College 3-2 in overtime for the national championship. Maybe the most memorable year for North Dakota was the 1998-99 season. The senior-dominated Sioux were ranked #1 by every poll in the land, almost from start to finish, while romping to another WCHA title with an amazing 24-2-2 record. However, the powerful UND club was derailed by the eventual champion Boston College in the quarterfinals. North Dakota seniors like Jason Blake, Jay Panzer, and David Hookstein scored a combined 107 goals. Maine defeated New Hampshire 3-2 in overtime for the national championship that year. And so ended the 5th decade of WCHA hockey, the 1990s. College hockey's most historic and successful league managed to claim an uncharacteristic 3 NCAA national championships, with Wisconsin in 1990, Northern Michigan in 1991, and North Dakota in 1997. But across the board, and under the guidance of the leadership of Commissioner Otto Breitenbach and then his successor Bruce McLeod, conference student athletes and coaches were highly decorated. Attendance flourished throughout, and the league's postseason tournament continued to grow to be the best tournament in the land.
Just dreaming of playing college hockey and playing in the WCHA.
You wanted to play in the WCHA. I think there's a lot of kids that felt the same way that I did when I was coming out of high school.
The people who taught us are the ones that should be credited, the Mariucci's and the Bassonis and the McInneses, who had the depth to look beyond the current time, had a vision, could see into the future of what hockey was going to become.